There's a road runs through this town, tells a story. It's got me exactly where I'm supposed to be. And if you're thinking of me, well, don't be worried, 'cause I'm as happy as you are, surely soon to see. And I said, come over, just come on over, you'll say. Yeah, I said, come over, come on over, you'll say. Yeah, I said, come over, just come on over, see what we have here. Soon as you get moving, yeah, the sooner I can prove it, yeah.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Portland on the Move show. And this is going to be our back to school September, well, almost September. It's tomorrow, I guess, is September. And we're live here at the Portland Senior Center / Zoom studio, and our Town Tech Educational Partnership and Portland on the Move is a collaboration between Portland High School and the Portland Town Hall. And with us this lovely Monday morning, and the weather is absolutely gorgeous out there. The humidity is down. But we have our Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Charles Britton. And Charles is actually a replacement of his old host, Eric Martin, who is the Director of Technology and Curriculum. So welcome, guys. How are we all doing?
Well, great.
Are you getting ready to jump in the deep end of the pool?
We're ready to go. I'm very, very excited that come tomorrow, for the first time in almost 6 months, we're going to have students back in classrooms. So I am over the top excited.
Fantastic. Well, I think everybody
long
is.
overdue.
Yes, I think kids are anxious. I think parents are everybody's anxious. Obviously, it's we're on uncharted waters, but I think you guys have done a phenomenal job as far as a lot of work and a lot of effort from your administrative team to your teachers and so forth, and getting the Portland School District ready to go. So, Charles, why don't you just give us the update of our? I know we're going back on the hybrid model. If you want to give us the the specifics of that and so forth, I'm sure our parents and listeners would be happy to engage.
Yeah, for sure. So let's just start with recognizing the elephant in the room, and that is that the year 2020 has been an extraordinarily complex year. I think we're all looking forward to 2021 and putting this year out of our memory in every possible way. Mm-hmm. So with that said, anybody out there who is still feeling stressed, still feeling anxious about how things are going, we too are. Mm-hmm. This is we are in really remarkable times, and I want to start by there.
Sure.
By acknowledging what a hard time it's been since last March, but also in the same breath, I think when we get through this, we're going to be able to recognize 2020 as a pivotal year. I see some real positives coming out of this experience as we go forward, and we're learning an awful lot. The interesting thing is, Mr. Martin, maybe you would disagree with me, but public education hasn't changed all that much since maybe the one-room schoolhouses on the prairie, right? I would suggest that since March, we've seen more change in public education than maybe ever before in the history of public schools. And change is hard, but it's also a good thing. It's refreshing, right? So I see a sort of a mini renaissance in here somewhere that, if we get through this and we learn from it, I see us only getting better as we go in the future.
Sure.
So,
mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I want to start down on that positive note. So the Portland Public Schools has essentially 4 models of public education that we're prepared for this year. Model 1 will be every student back in person. That's the model we hope to get to at some point in the very near future. Model 2 would be a return to entire remote learning, that all students and teachers would return to where we were in the spring. That is not the model that we hope we get to, but that is a model that we have developed and are prepared to return to if necessary. Model 3 is the hybrid model, which I'm going to spend a little bit of time talking about. And then Model 4, which I'm going to have Mr. Martin talk about, is an entirely new school district, entirely new approach to schooling that Mr. Martin has done an amazing job building in a very short period of time to support the 20% of our families who have chosen not to return for in-person learning until the pandemic is over.
Mm-hmm.
So we have 4 models of public education, and we've staffed, designed the curriculum, the program of studies, and prepared to implement all 4 given the circumstances that unfold over the coming months. Very unique, has been a huge challenge for us, but a very talented team of building principals and leaders in our district and teachers have come together and put us in a position where we are ready to move between models at the drop of a hat.
Mm-hmm.
So where are we starting? We are starting tomorrow with what's called the hybrid model. Right? So what we've done is we've divided our students into 2 even groups, Group 1 and Group 2. On Tuesday and Wednesday, Group 1 will be here in person. Group 2 will be learning remotely. On Thursday, all of our students will be remote learning while our buildings are cleaned. And then on Friday, Group 2 will be in person and Group 1 students will be home learning. Then next week after the Labor Day, on Tuesday, Group 2 will come again. And then Wednesday will be a deep clean of the building. And then Thursday, Friday, we'll be back to Group 1. Then we're going to get into a pattern where every Thursday, Friday, Group 1 students are here in our buildings learning in person, and Group 2 students are home remote learning. On Mondays and Tuesdays, Group 2 students are in the building learning in person. Group 1 students are home remote learning. And then every Wednesday between the 2 group meetings is when our maintenance staff will be disinfecting and cleaning the buildings to continue to fight this virus and make sure we limit cross-exposure. That's going to continue until October 9th, which is the long Columbus Day weekend. We're going to take the first 5 weeks of school and study how it goes. We're going to make sure that our social distancing practices, our cohorting practices, our students wearing masks, how we have students drop off and pick up, all of the logistics we're going to make sure are working well. If all of our logistics are working well,
Mm-hmm.
and COVID rates stay well below, the number is 25 per 100,000 residents, then after Columbus Day, we would return fully in person. Now, a lot of that will depend on the infection rates in the community, and if the infection rates go above 25 per 100,000, that would be a signal that we have to go fully remote. So we're starting the year in this hybrid so that we can take the first 5 or 6 weeks of school and study how well our practices are working in terms of fighting this virus. If things are going great and our numbers are continued to be low and all of our practices have worked effectively, we will open fully after Columbus Day. But if they go sideways and go in the direction we don't want them to see, which would mean a spike in COVID, we would return to remote learning.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's the, again, it's just the wait and see and to see basically, how the trends move and so forth and how students adapt. And obviously, from a standpoint of just the protocols of, kids arriving, and I don't know, either you or Eric can touch upon that, as far as the procedures when kids arrive at school. I know in our previous podcasts and so forth, a fair amount of, almost 60% of the families are going to be transporting their own children. So, so when the parents do transport, is there going to be a separate entrance for the bus routes versus the people that are transporting their students?
Yeah, so one of the major considerations in terms of deciding whether to go back in a hybrid or go back fully is transportation, right? Now, one of the places where a virus might be likely to spread would be a crowded full bus. I mean, there's just not a lot of ways to socially distance
Right.
on a bus. There's not an easy way to cohort students on a bus unless it's, you know, by neighborhood, but the bus routes are pretty spread out and buses are confined. The only real mitigation strategy on a bus is wearing masks and sanitizing your hands and cleaning the bus as well. But in terms of cohorting or spreading students out, if it's a long route with a lot of students in a crowded bus, social distancing and cohorting would be difficult, if not impossible. So any parents who are able to drive their students to school are strongly encouraged to do so, right? That will limit the number of students on the bus. We put out a survey and 65% of our parents indicated that they would be able to drive their kids to school, and that's strongly encouraged. Over the summer, our security guards and Portland Police did a traffic study of all of our buildings to see if there are ways we could mitigate or you know, effectively manage a larger number of people driving their students to school. Those traffic patterns have been communicated to parents by the building principals, and we're going to study them when the school year starts. The good news, of course, is that in the hybrid model, only half of our students are going to be arriving on any given day, so it will be half the number of people that would be dropping kids off. So we're going to take a look at how it works in the hybrid and then make decisions over the coming weeks if we have to tweak our traffic patterns after Columbus Day.
Oh, okay, all right. Well, I think certain schools, like the Brownstone schools, for instance, the buses normally unload in the back anyway, and the lockers are, you know, coming through the front. So I think that is a remedy there. It might be a little bit more difficult at the high school and the middle school, the secondary school. So that's great. Now, as far as the and I just learned this acronym, the PVLA, and Eric, maybe throw the ball over to you in that. Let us know what the PVLA is.
Sure, glad to. So hello, everyone. As Dr. Britton said, I've been here but a short time in Portland. Dr. Britton challenged me to hit the ground running, I think, as the times require, and I've been happy to do that. And a major initiative that I've undertaken is the development of our Portland Virtual Learning Academy, or for short, PVLA, because the world needs more acronyms. So what is the PVLA? The PVLA is the Portland Public Schools educational option for our families and students who have chosen to not return to in-person classes at the onset of the 2021 school year. And I want to say first and foremost, we empathize with our families and our students. We understand the difficult decisions that families are facing, and we respect the ability and the right of every family to choose the educational option that makes the most sense for them in these, as Dr. Britton said, very complicated times. That said, we have an obligation and a commitment to continue to provide all Portland families and students a high-quality Portland Public Schools education, and we've developed the PVLA to do just that. So Portland Virtual Learning Academy effectively functions like a sixth school in the district. It encompasses all grade levels, from students in pre-K through grade 12. Our current enrollment is about 240 students, and they represent every type of Portland student we have. So we're very proud of the diversity that's within our Virtual Learning Academy. We're also very proud of this fact, and this is not true of many surrounding districts. Our Portland Virtual Learning Academy is completely staffed 100% by full-time Portland Public Schools educators. So we have not had to take the unusual and extraordinary step of hiring external staff to be able to teach and reach our virtual learners. So how is that? Well, the first thing we did was to utilize our staff who have chosen, like our families and students, to not return to in-person schooling at this time. So we took advantage of those teachers who, for a number of different reasons and considerations, have decided to stay home or to work from home this fall, as their right to do. And then secondly, and this is more so at the secondary level for our middle and high school students, we had a tremendous number of teachers take on for a little bit of additional pay, but certainly requiring more time and commitment on their part, extra teaching sections of classes. So whereas a middle school or high school teacher would normally contractually teach 5 classes, they've agreed to take on a 6th class. And that has allowed us to fully staff our secondary PVLA with Portland Public Schools teachers and offer a robust program of studies. The PVLA functions in each building on a school day schedule. So this is not like distance learning in the spring, where our teachers would post assignments and we really had to offer students and families the flexibility to tend to schooling at any time of day. That was given some of the reactiveness with which we had to operate in the spring. We were caught unaware by COVID in the springtime. We've had more time to plan and prepare. Our world has acclimated temporarily to this new reality, and as such, we've been afforded the ability to develop PVLA in a way that it functions like a normal school day. So students wake up every morning. They are expected to arrive at their virtual school by a designated time. They follow a set schedule of class meeting periods. And while most of these classes are happening via Google Meet or via online platforms, attendance matters. So students are absolutely expected to be present and in attendance throughout all portions of their school day, throughout every class meeting within that school day, utilizing their computer with their web cameras on. We're encouraging our students to wake up in the morning, get dressed, eat breakfast, and go to school, even if going to school might mean going to a room or a workstation set up in your house. So that's a kind of broad overview of PVLA, but we're incredibly proud of this program. We think it really is a model for how we're, again, extending to our students and families that opportunity and that commitment on our end to continue receiving a high quality education. And we know we're the envy of many surrounding school districts who've not developed plans that we think are as effective as those we have in Portland.
Let me ask, Ms. Brown, let me put you on the spot for a
Sure.
minute. I started by talking a little bit about silver linings in this.
Yeah.
You know, I see what we're going to learn from the PVLA as one of those silver linings.
Absolutely.
So let me put you on the spot.
Yep.
If we do the PVLA right, what do you think this portends for snow days and the idea of year-round schooling?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I'll start with snow days. That's probably a little less controversial than the idea of year-round schooling. But, you know, Dr. Britton, you had made mention earlier of a silver lining in this pandemic is that it's pushed us in education to change, to progress, to grow in ways that pre-pandemic we were probably a little bit behind the times in doing. So one of these ideas is that school has to be always connected to a brick and mortar building, that if the building isn't open, school can't be happening. Now, we very much still uphold the idea and the desire to have school as a place, a physical place for our students, more than an idea or something they attend to outside of the types of social interactions and communities that they get in our brick and mortar buildings. And our desire is to see all students, as soon as is deemed safe and healthy and possible, to return to us fully in person. However, we also know that learning is ubiquitous now in our world, right? We can attend to knowledge anywhere. The internet is a place where we can learn from each other, learn from others, find information, better ourselves. And so this is really an opportunity for us to advance the flexibilities that we provide our families and students around where and when learning can happen. So when it comes to issues like snow days, where because the building was closed, the assumption was that learning could not happen, we know now that with enough planning and with the right platforms and the right communications, that our students can be successful learners at home, still under the guidance of a teacher or an instructor, even when our buildings may be physically closed to the public. And that could encompass snow days, that could encompass summer break. So some of these kind of wonky reasons in the past why we may have paused learning, you know, it's snowing outside. We have an opportunity here to give our students and families greater continuity of learning Rather than having snow days, our students may attend to learning at home while snow is falling in a way that's structured, in a way that's still rigorous, in a way that allows us to end each school year maybe a little bit earlier than June 30th. And to Dr. Britton's point of year-round schooling, to really develop robust learning options for our families over the summer that don't require in-school attendance.
Nice.
Couldn't have said it better.
There you go. Speaking of, now that the PVLA, obviously, just give us a little update as far as in relation to devices. Is there going to be a 1-to-1 ratio as far as devices with our students?
We have an amazing technology team. Our core technology team is made up of 3 individuals, and then they have some other assistants and supports, but 3 individuals who by and large serve the needs of 1,500 students and staff in the district. So they're an amazing set of people. We're so thankful for them. We have absolutely prioritized in Portland, and this was an initiative that began last spring in response to our Sudden school closures, the placing of a functional, quality laptop learning device in the hands of every student and staff member across the district. As it stands right now, we stand in good stead to be able to honor that commitment at the onset of the 2021 school year. Some of our devices are, we won't say on their last legs, but getting a little bit up there in their age. And so we're already planning for the future. We've ordered replacement devices that, if you've been paying attention to the news, you know that the Chromebook and tablet market is absolutely saturated right now. So we're a little bit back ordered on our replacement devices, which we're anticipating to start coming in around October 1st, or the time frames we've been told. But even without those replacement devices, we are in fine working order to begin the school year with every student and every staff member having in their hands the technology they need to access learning and to be successful.
Sure. And also from the standpoint of, again, families that perhaps don't have a reliable internet connection, is that being addressed with hotspots?
Absolutely. Dr. Britton has made this an A1 priority in our district. And really, it's in our minds an ethical question, right? That how can we be requiring learning to take place virtually while not being able to guarantee that all of our families and students have access to the internet necessary to access that virtual learning? So we've actually partnered with the state. The state has made available options to districts for expanding the availability of Wi-Fi to families in need. We're very happy to announce that we'll be taking delivery of 35 Wi-Fi hotspots that we'll be distributing to our families in need to, again, make sure that they have the access needed. And then for our the distribution of those Wi-Fi hotspots will be along lines of socioeconomic need. And then we'll continue to work with our families to make sure that they're connected at all times, that they have stable, reliable internet connection. And that really, again, to connect to the previous question, speaks to this new era that we're in education, where internet-based education is going to be part of our core approach moving forward for all times. It's the availability of incredible learning opportunities, experiences, programs that are available through the internet and web-based applications and softwares. It's simply too much to ignore any longer, or to not include as a core component of our academic programming.
Sure.
And along those lines, to ensure that our families and students have Wi-Fi access.
Absolutely.
If I could just add one thing, I mean, that's another silver lining, I think, for our nation, that we may see out of this terrible experience.
Yes.
Right? That we've all recognized the digital divide as another opportunity gap, another equity consideration as we try to live our nation's founding principles, right? So,
Sure.
So that this is going to put more devices in the hands of some of our neediest students and provide greater access to a flow of information. I think that's a good thing. Now, of course, our job is to make sure everybody uses that ethically and appropriately. We still have, as a nation, a long way to go in terms of how we use social media for good and not necessarily for divisive purposes. But I think that this is an added silver lining that we're gonna reap the benefit of as we come out of this pandemic.
Well, I think from a standpoint of, like I said, the landscape has changed, not only for the academic world, but it's also changed for the business world. I mean, people that, used to go into the office and spend, I know I have students at my music store that work in New York. They spend an hour and a half on the train. This is, I think, made people realize that, there are other options, and I think it's going to be a game changer in the way of going forward doing business, not only from an academic standpoint, but also from a business standpoint. I think.
Yeah, and it also gives us an exciting opportunity. We've been working really hard to train our students in digital citizenship and what it means to act appropriately in an online setting. What to expect of yourselves, what to expect of others. And so this, another silver lining here is it's really giving us the ability to have our students develop those skills in real time, in a constant way. And I think as a result of that, our students are going to be even better prepared for the type of world that they're going to be entering, and that's changing right before their eyes, the one that you described.
Sure, absolutely, absolutely. All right, guys, we're going to take a brief short break. We're live here at Portland on the Move, ladies and gentlemen, and we're in our Zoom studio at the Portland Waverly Center / Senior Center, and with us our guests for our late August, early September back to school edition of Portland on the Move is our superintendent of school, Dr. Charles Britton, and Eric Martin, who is the Director of Technology and Curriculum. So we're going to be right back. We're going to be debuting actually something we worked on over the summer. The Portland on the Move show has been the longest running show on the Comcast Educational Network at Channel 15. And we did for our summer project for a couple of our town tech students, we actually went back to 1999. And this is just kind of a rerun reel of all of the hosts, okay, that have appeared on our show, okay, throughout its existence. And it's pretty amazing on how many people and how many students have been hosting the show with myself and actually one of our former first selectmen, Ed Kalinowski, who actually we formed the show with. So don't go away. We'll be right back here at Portland on the Move. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and once again, we'd like to welcome you back to Portland on the Move. This is our 7th edition show, and again, Portland on the Move show is a show originated and sponsored by the Town Tech Educational Partnership, along with the student government at the Town Hall at the high school. Ingrid, do we have anything new and exciting that's happening at the high school? At this, I know you guys are working very hard to get the yearbook out, and how's that going?
The yearbook is going pretty well. We were just getting ads and doing all the legwork and stuff for all that. As far as the Senate is concerned, we've had quite a few fundraisers this year. We do the food drive. Our Halloween dance is tomorrow night, so we're hoping we have a good turnout for that. And our next big thing is the Santa Claus Ball, which is in the beginning of December. I'm not sure.
Have some activities going on at the high school that you want to bring us up to date on?
I was asked to inform all the listening viewers that about Matt Beltz's proclamation that the seniors would again win the food drive, and in fact we have.
We have our Christmas concert coming up in 2 weeks. You know, the select chorus, the jazz band, the regular band, and the chorus.
Good. How about yourself?
I'm doing all right.
We're all yours.
All right. We'll start off with Danielle Ballinger, who is next to Ingrid Swanson. Danielle is a graduating senior who has been part of Portland on the Move for 3 years now. She is the president of Portland High School Band and Chorus. She is class officer, a student senate representative to go along with Charter Oak Conference student senate secretary. And next year, Danielle will be attending Gettysburg College in Pennsylvania. So, Danielle?
I just got to do a lot of homework lottery for Mr. O'Connell.
For economics?
Yes.
You'll make it, Eric. We have faith in you.
All right.
We have faith in you. So, Now that we got that done, I need to say, actually, I'll say this at the end too, but it's these students here and behind the cameras now that make this show, and they've done an absolute fabulous job. Before we go into that, either Dana or Rachel, what's going on in the new school year? It's coming up close, a couple more weeks.
On the 31st of August, we have our freshman orientation. So
That's
the band,
it.
well, the band has to go in for it and kind of play around and stuff.
Even if you swing around to Steve and get Steve again, he's being accepted to, I think, Valley View. Just kidding, Steve. Just kidding. Come on, really. Just kidding. And swing it right around to Wayne there, because Wayne is going to Hartford. Steve, where are you going? Where are you going? Central. Steve is going to Central.
Before we get into the show, what's happening at Portland High School?
Well, Portland High School, the track seasons, the spring sports are in full force now, I would say. The softball and the baseball teams are both practicing, and Stephanie can give us a track update.
Track's going good. We still don't have a track, so we practice at Valley View, and we just kind of run around the baseball field, but it's going good.
Well, that's good. We have a bad hair day, Mr. Okay.
And Kenny boy.
And Kenny and so forth. And our own Mr. Ed Kalinowski back here on camera, and our camera persons. Okay. Katie. Wave, Katie. Kristen, I'm sorry. Okay, and Mr. Nate.
You can smack him later for that
back
one.
there.
Before we get back into the show, let's do some school updates. The High School Musical, Sound of Music, was a huge success. We sold out nearly every performance. Everyone did a fantastic job. Kevin behind the camera was involved. Phil, who's not here, was involved. I was in it. John wasn't involved, even though he wants me to say he was.
We'll get back to the question here. What's happening at the high school?
Okay,
The updates.
actually, we've got quite a few updates. Let's see. Girls soccer beat Parish Hill from 1-0 and managed to make it to the States, so congratulations. Also, we have this upcoming weekend, National Honor Society is going to the National Conference for Juniors and High School Society.
So what's happening at PHS? Come on, tell us.
The CAP testing has been going on since the first now, and it'll be going on for till next week or so. And it's been pretty interesting this year. They've been doing it during the long periods instead of having upperclassmen go out early. And the upperclassmen didn't care for that really, because we were looking forward to our half days, but it's not our decision.
Co-host tonight, because the Yankees are in first place, Mr. Phil Van Vleck. How you doing, Phil?
I'm good. I'm good.
So tell me what you've been doing for excitement.
Watching baseball.
Can you tell me who won the pennant this year?
No one yet, because they haven't played it yet.
Oh, okay.
In a couple weeks.
Who won the division?
The Yankees.
Oh, the Yankees. Okay, can give us the update on what's going on at school, or?
Well,
Well,
there's baseball, softball, golf, and cross country going on right now.
Oh, okay. All right.
And
now, is the girls cross country team going to be in contention again this year?
most likely.
Yeah. I heard they're pretty good. Anyway, anything happening at school that we want to bring folks up to date on? I know we just got started.
Cross country starting.
Cross country starting.
Soccer.
Yep. Soccer is starting. Okay. Are you doing any fall sports?
I'm doing cross country.
You're doing cross country. How's the team look this year?
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, the summer was shaky, but
Shaky. Okay. Anyway, what's happening at school? Are you on the wrestling team?
No.
You're not on a wrestling team. I know Cody's on the wrestling team. Cody's in the he's in the control room, and so forth. When's the wrestling season start, Steve? You don't. What's the latest school updates, if you would?
Well, the girls soccer team won state champs, and the girls cross country won Class S champs.
Two honorable mentions, okay, from the sports side. We have, in fact, our cameraman Dave Tacey and John Dolan, who also did the state open. And is that right, David? Yeah. Okay. So congratulations to you guys.
All right, we're live back here at Portland on the Move, and again, with us, our guests this month are Dr. Charles Britton and Eric Martin, who is our Director of Technology and Curriculum. So, we hope you enjoyed that little trek down memory lane, if you would, and see how much feedback we get from our past students that have appeared on the show, have hosted the show, and even participated in the show in the background on cameras and in the control room and so forth. So that's great. So anyway, back to Portland on the Move here. All right. I guess, Eric, I think I'm going to throw this one over to you. As far as in relation to, again, the PVLA, I think parents, now that everything is becoming more digital, I know when students were taking out their laptops at school, they had to sign a memorandum of understanding and ethics and all that kind of stuff. So, give us the update on that.
Yeah, so it's a great question. One of the silver linings is our ability to move things electronically and reduce some of the paper trail and paper waste that's becoming quickly antiquated practice. And so in terms of some of those forms that our families are used to, maybe digging out of their child's bag all wrinkled at the end of that first day of school, we're going to be moving a lot of those forms electronically this year and giving our parents opportunity to just complete those forms with a couple clicks of a mouse. So yes, our families will receive a Chromebook use agreement form. As we put these devices into our students' hands, basically that form acknowledges that the student will take good care of that device. These things break over the natural course of use, but we certainly don't want to be flinging them across a room or throwing them at our little brother. Things like our free and reduced lunch forms, also our acceptable technology use policy. These things will go home to our families of both our Virtual Learning Academy and our physical buildings via email links, and they'll have opportunity to complete them as such.
Nice. And you mentioned one word, and Dr. Britt, why don't you talk about the lunch programs? How's that going to be?
Sure. So, specifically for students in the PVLA, they still have the option of picking up a lunch at the school, and it would be the same approach that we've used in the spring. So, anybody who would like a school lunch, come on up to the high school, and there's the circle in front of the high school. We will distribute the lunches from that point. The only other difference in terms of lunches this year is, we're still going to provide lunches. It's just that the lunches in grades K through 8 will be eaten in the classroom. And at the high school, Ms. Lawson now has the students spread out over more space throughout the building to eat lunch.
Okay, fantastic. Now,
if I could just jump in our PVLA too, every student has a lunch break built into their schedule, and it's an hour. So that's as important to have screen time as we know for some of our families to be able to possibly drive up to Portland High School and pick up the lunch during that hour.
Nice, very nice. Now, as far as, Eric, in relation to other support services, what are and either one of you can answer on that as far as are available to families?
Yeah, so support services are incredibly important. We know that for so many of our students, they're core reasons that our students are able to succeed. So our PVLA students have full and continued access to their school-based school counselors or social workers. So although they're PVLA students learning virtually at home, the school counselors and social workers remain absolutely available to them in the same ways that they would for their in-person classmates. However, it's just by appointment, by scheduled Google Meet appointment. Obviously, in cases of emergency, no appointment necessary. Our special education and 504 services will be continued to be provided to our students in ways that are both appropriate and feasible. So in cases of special education and 504 services, it may not look identical for a student in PVLA as it would in the building. And the reality there is just sometimes in-person supports differ from the types of supports needed when you're not attending school in person. I'm working very, very closely with Dawn Davis, our phenomenal Director of Pupil Services, and her special education staff to make sure that all students are having their needs met in a way that their services are mapped, they happen regularly, and they happen as delivered by a special education teacher or paraprofessional within Portland Public Schools attended to on our Virtual Learning Academy side of things.
Sure. Also, from a standpoint, when students arrive at school, what's going to be the protocol? I mean, obviously, you know, in previous years, okay, you get off the bus, you get out of your car, you walk into school. How is that going to change this year?
Sure. Well, I guess there's a couple things. Let me take everybody to the moment their alarm clock goes off and they get out of bed, right?
Okay.
Let's just kind of back it up there, and I'll sort of walk you through the course of a day. This is probably the most important thing I can put out there to anybody in the context of this pandemic. When all of us wake up in the morning, we have to do a little wellness check, right? So our principals have shared information, you know, with sort of a guideline, right? Do I have a fever? Do I have a sore throat? Has my sense of taste changed? Do I have chills? Is there anything wrong with me, right? And then, of course, for our youngest students, parents, please do this little wellness check with your child in the morning. Are you feeling well? If any of us are not feeling well, we have an obligation to stay home, right? You must stay home. If you're not feeling well, you must stay home. Now, that's different. I get it. I have been guilty of not feeling well and going to work. Oftentimes I saw it as a function of my work ethic, or, you know, I just got too many responsibilities, I have to go do it. And I'm gonna tough it through, you know, pop a couple of Advil and go. That is completely unacceptable this year. We must stay home if we're not feeling well. And as a parent, if my daughter woke up one morning and said, I have a little headache, give her some Tylenol and send her off to school, you know, maybe I've been guilty of doing that. That also cannot be the practice this year. That if we're not feeling well, stay home, right? That's the most important thing I can articulate to anybody. Does that mean that our attendance rates are going to go down, that more students are going to be having more days absent and more teachers are going to need more sub coverage? Yes, it does. And is that okay? Yes, it absolutely is. Right? That is something we owe it to each other. And if you don't feel well, stay home, right? Until you're feeling well enough to come back to school. Generally, that means 24 to 48 hours fever-free. If the symptoms don't get better, stay home, right? Mm-hmm. When students arrive at school, we're not taking temperatures. So students in grades K through 8 will go directly to a classroom, right? They will be in what are called cohorts. So in K through 8, kids will be in a single classroom with the same group of students for the day. And teachers will be changing classrooms, not students. So in the past, bells would ring, kids would empty into the hallways. There would be a very busy, crowded hallway for a few minutes as kids went to their lockers and passed and would go to the next room. That is going to be very different this year. In K through 8, students will go to one room and stay there. Teachers will be on carts and visit that classroom. That's called cohorting. And again, that's designed so that if a student were, God forbid, or a teacher were infected, came back positive, that the chance for that virus to spread would be limited to the cohort of students that the student interacted with. At the high school level, it's certainly more complicated. You haven't been a high school principal for 14 years. I can tell you it is impossible to cohort a high school. The program of studies is too large and kids' experiences are too differentiated that teachers would not be able to just visit the classrooms the way they would in a K through 8 model. The way that Ms. Lawson addressed that, and I thought it was very clever, is that in a normal day, 8 periods would meet. She's collapsed those to 4, right? So in a normal day, 7 or 8 periods would meet for on average 45 minutes. During the course of the next several months, 4 periods will meet for an hour and a half. The purpose of that is it will limit the number of times students have to change classes and limit the number of times students interact with other groups of students. It's not perfect, but it's certainly an improvement over what we had before this whole thing started.
Mm-hmm. Now, as far as in relation to, obviously, I've been to school, you've been to school, okay. Kids get sick in school, and how, we have, you go to the nurse's room. Oh, what happens in a situation like that?
Yeah, that's another really good question. Again, this is going to be different this year. And I'm going to be completely honest, it may, in some cases, be inconvenient. In the past, if a student went to the nurse's office, the nurse would assess that student, and oftentimes, if the parents had given the permission, the student would get some Tylenol and go back to class, right? I have a sore throat, I have a headache, here's some Tylenol, go back to class. That's not going to be the way it goes this year. any students who exhibit signs or symptoms of COVID, right? And that's pretty much sign and symptom of allergies or a number of other ailments,
Sure.
which are most likely what it is. But if a student exhibits a sign or a symptom of COVID, they will be kept in an isolation room in the nurse's office and dismissed for the day. So more parents, please don't send your children to school if they're not feeling well, but expect that at any time during the course of the day, if a student starts to not feel well, you'll be getting a call and being asked to pick up your children.
Okay. All right. Let's see.
If I could just jump in and clarify, or add on to, rather. This idea of a parent may be wondering, oh, gosh, my child's going to go home for a stuffy nose and miss school. Because we're moving so rapidly and really so confidently into this era of digital learning, or what we call blended learning, right? Where learning can happen in a brick and mortar building, or it can happen outside of that brick and mortar building concurrently. We can create a connected student experience for our in-school learners and our at-home learners. If a student is home exhibiting signs and symptoms of COVID, but feels well enough to continue to learn and attend school, our teachers are ready. They're ready to continue to support that student at home, and that student can continue to receive learning and assignments different than we may have done in the past, where we would have just said, that student's out of school, they're sick, and their learning is paused until they come back. We have no need to pause learning anymore. Learning can continue, provided again that the student feels well enough to attend to his or her learning.
Okay.
And I would that's a great point, and I appreciate you adding on to that, because the other reality is this year, if students test positive or a contact tracer communicates with one of our teachers or students and indicates, whether it's in school or outside of school, that you may have been in contact with somebody who had COVID, we are going to be asking those individuals to quarantine for 14 days, to self-isolate for 14 days. In those cases, just like Mr. Martin said, it is not like, well, learning stops.
Right.
It just means that learning moves from the bricks and mortar classroom to the online platforms. That goes for teachers too. In some cases, if our teachers have to quarantine for 14 days, we will hire a substitute teacher and have the substitute teacher be present in the classroom to manage and supervise, but the teacher will teach the class from home. Right? So we're thinking of all kinds of creative ways to maintain an uninterrupted continuum of instruction that extends from the classroom into the home.
Nice, nice. Speaking of test, is there going to be a protocol for testing as far as if, I know Russ Melman at Chatham Health District is, speaks on our podcast pretty much every week. And so how is testing going to be? Is there going to be testing available in the school?
No,
Okay.
not to start. You're probably hearing universities are testing students. Right now, the technology hasn't reached the point where we could do that. It's just not, we don't have the capacity right now. Testing would be done by pediatricians or at Walgreens down here in Middletown, or through the various 24-hour stops or wherever they have in town. But we're not going to do testing at the schools. That may change. Who knows if new technology becomes available or becomes easier and we can manage it with something we would be open to. But to start the school year, we won't be doing any testing in the schools.
Now, if a student is quarantined and so forth, is it incumbent on the student's parents, family, to get a test and before they can be admitted back into school to show them a negative test? How would that work?
So those types of decisions have to be decided between medical practitioners, pediatricians, and families, right? We will have guidelines. The guidelines now say that if you quarantine for 14 days and are symptom-free, that's the incubation period. Whether you get a call from a contact tracer and they say you need to quarantine for 14 days, and during that 14 days you get a test, I think that's a function of family decisions. It's not something you would be required to do, I believe. would it be prudent? Would I do it? If I had to quarantine for 14 days, would I want to test?
Sure.
From personal experience, I can tell you that yes,
Sure.
I would, and I would get one, but nobody would tell me I have to.
Okay, all right, that's fine, that's fine. All right, we're going to take another break here, and we're going to show a little bit of our Portland Airline Trail, okay, which is basically a kind of an amenity that has been in existence in the town for probably about almost 2 years now. And ironically, one of our, actually our high school seniors, okay, Justin Coe, was part of his Eagle Scout project was to build actually a bench and a little shelter out for the airline trail. So this is just a little bit of history on the Portland Airline Trail, and that goes from our trailhead at Middle Haddam Road to the East Hampton Town line. So we're right here at Portland on the Move with Dr. Charles Britton and Mr. Eric Martin, and we're here at Portland on the Move for our back to school issue. So don't go away, we'll be right back.
The Airline Trail is a multi-use trail that is here in Connecticut. The trail in Portland is about 2.5 miles long. However, once it's connected to the East Hampton section, it'll be 25 to 50 miles. There is a section east of Willimantic that goes to Putnam, and it's part of the East Coast Greenway, which is a plan to make these trails go from Maine to Florida. The use of our trail here will be a combination of walking, hiking, jogging, bicycling, horseback riding. Most days when you come here in the parking lot of the head of the trail, there are at least 4, 5, 6 cars that are here. A dozen people or so are on the trail walking or hiking or jogging or biking. So the trail has been very well received by residents and people from the surrounding towns. This first started, our Board of Selectmen in town 4.5 years ago formed a committee of members from the town called the Portland Airline Trail Steering Committee. And our vision was to develop a trail from Portland to move eastward. The committee worked very hard in trying to first get permission to use the property. And the property was owned by Eversource, so Eversource gave us a license. And once we received that license, we then filled out an application for a grant with the Department of Environmental Protection. And then the next step was the committee said we need to select a contractor. Once the contractor was selected, we got to work.
Phase 2 will take us from the current ending point at the YMCA border through the Butler property, down Route 66 into the town of Portland. It's a long-term goal. We have a lot of activities we will need to complete to make that happen. We are also looking at the depot at the intersection of Marlborough Street and Chichito Road that will allow us to have an economic development area for the town of Portland in the future.
It's nice that the Board of Selectmen had the foresight 4.5 years ago to choose a group of people to say, listen, we'd like to have this type of trail. What do you think? How can it be done? And go ahead with it. When we see happy people and children biking and hiking and walking, it's very rewarding for us and also rewarding for the town, because this is a part of Portland's health and wellness initiative.
Lastly, if you'd like to join us and volunteer some of your time, we're always looking for new members to the committee. We also are looking for volunteers to help us maintain the trail. Please look at the webpage. It has all your contact information, or on our Facebook page. We really appreciate all the assistance we've had in the past, but we're looking forward to another 25 years, and we need your help.
And we're live back here at Portland on the Move. And again, our Portland on the Move show is a collaboration between Portland High School and the Portland Town Hall. And we are in our Zoom / TV studio here at the Waverly Center / Senior Center down on Waverly Avenue. So again, our guests for this segment are again Dr. Charles Britton and Eric Martin, and we're going to get right back. We hope you enjoyed the Airline Trail. If you haven't been out on it, I tell you, it's getting a phenomenal amount of use. It's a great way to get some exercise, so take advantage of it. If you'd like to be involved in the Portland Airline Trail Committee, there's opportunities there too. So again, back to the show here, and I think the big topic is, I think not only in the Portland School District but around the state, as far as extracurricular activities, athletics. So where does the district stand there?
Right, okay. So I guess I would start by saying I completely understand how important co-curricular activities, extracurricular activities, and athletics are for our students, right? That they are truly what makes the high school experience valuable and important to a lot of our students. You know, and you know, last March it was heartbreaking when we couldn't have the Little Mermaid, right? I mean, that was such a bummer, right? That we couldn't have that. I was so looking for it. I had my tickets. I was ready to go. It was going to be a great. Was going to take my children. It was going to be awesome. And of course, we had to cancel athletics in the fall. We, you know, when we lose these things, it's heartbreaking. So we want co-curricular, extracurricular, and athletics to happen, right? But we have to do them safely, right? We have to do them in a way that maximizes the health and well-being of our students. So in terms of extracurricular and co-curricular activities, here's how we're going to decide on which of those activities can run and the conditions that they can run. Question 1, can the activity be done virtually? Can the meeting, can the group get together online? Can a Google Meet happen? Can it be done virtually? Certainly, if the answer to that is yes, then we will allow the activity to proceed. It may require the activities change a little bit, but to the maximum extent possible that we can move extracurricular and co-curricular activities to an online format, we will. If the extracurricular activity cannot be done online because of the nature of the activity, the second question will be, can it be done in a way that cohort students socially distance with masks on and maintains all of the protocols to keep students safe? If the answer to that is yes, then we will consider it on a case-by-case basis. So if it can be done online, it will definitely happen. If it can be done in a socially distanced way, we'll consider the activities on a case-by-case basis, and if in the judgment of our administrators it can be done safely, and in the judgment of our medical professionals, then we'll allow it. But that's going to be decided on a case-by-case basis. If the activities can't be done in a socially distanced way, or can't be modified in some way to promote social distance, mask wearing, health and safety, then they won't happen. Right? So that's for our co-curricular and extracurricular activities. We're hoping to allow as many as we possibly can to happen. If they can be done online, do them online. If they can be done safely, we'll consider them on a case-by-case basis. If they can't be done safely, we won't have them.
Sure. Has the CIAC made any rulings as far as that goes in relation to fall sports?
Yeah, right, so athletics, right? Now athletics is different altogether, right? So I'm sure a lot of people have been following the news and hearing things about what the CIAC is allowing and not allowing, right? So the CIAC is our league. You know, they sort of are the governing body for athletics in the state of Connecticut. What happened this summer was the CIAC released some guidelines for allowing sports, including sports that are considered high risk, like football. When they released those guidelines, our Department of Public Health looked at those suggestions from the CIAC and made a different set of recommendations. The CIAC initially said football could happen and we could start conditioning and we would allow it. The Department of Public Health said football is a high-risk sport, and unless it were changed dramatically to potentially a passing league 7-on-7 or some other ideas, that the Department of Public Health would advise that football not happen until the spring. So the CIAC and the Department of Public Health had some conversations, and there's still some differences of opinion about that. My recommendation is going to be that we defer to the epidemiologists and the public health experts. I believe those experts are at the Department of Public Health. So we will follow the recommendations from the Department of Public Health, which, and it breaks my heart to say this, means no football in the fall. If the football can be changed in a way that it can be safer, whether it's 7-on-7 or other approaches, maybe. But right now, the Department of Public Health is saying football is too risky, can't happen. For the other sports, the Department of Public Health, and specifically for Portland, this is soccer and cross country at the middle school and high school, has recommended that that the athletic season doesn't start until 2 weeks after the first day of school. Our first day of school is September 1st. So we would look to potentially start full practices in the season on September 15th. What that allows us to do is see how it goes, right? I mean, our first priority has to be to get students back in classrooms. So it'll give us 2 weeks to see how that goes, and if things are going well, we would implement the Department of Public Health guidelines, potentially starting athletics on September 15th. The Department of Public Health also allows for some conditioning to start now, which would be in groups of 10. So we've looked at those guidelines and would potentially be able to start some preseason conditioning work if we're able to cohort students and implement all of the precautions. So Tuesday night, September 1st, I am going to bring a recommendation to the Portland Board of Education. Ultimately, the decision rests with the school leadership team and the Board of Ed. My recommendation is going to be that we defer to the guidance of the experts at the Department of Public Health and make sure our athletic season is implemented in accordance with those expectations.
Nice. Okay. Well, I think that answers a lot of questions. I think the only other looming topic, as far as the before and after schools care, I think, which is like the Kids Blast, and what's the status of that?
Okay. So, quick reminder: before the pandemic, we had before and after care for all of our students, hosted by the Middlesex YMCA at Valley View. So Gildersleeve and Brownstone families would travel to and from Valley View for morning and after care. And we did have one after-school program at Brownstone, sponsored by Portland Youth Services, called Kids Blast. We were hoping this year to be able to open 3 sites, one at Valley View, one at Brownstone, one at Gildersleeve, and have before and after care at those sites so that we could maintain the cohorts. Unfortunately, because there are so few students in those programs, as a function of, 1, the families that have chosen the Portland Virtual Learning Academy, and 2, the fact that in the hybrid, only half of our students are coming on any given day, there just wasn't enough students to run 3 sites.
Okay.
So there will be 1 site for before and after care, and it's been moved to Gildersleeve this year.
Okay.
So that students, when they're dropped off, Valley View students will stay with Valley View students, Gildersleeve students will stay with Gildersleeve students, and Brownstone students will stay with Brownstone students at Gildersleeve. And then they'll be transported to Valley View and Brownstone in the morning and then brought there in the afternoon.
Great. I think that I think a lot of those programs are, with parents, working parents and so forth, are critically important to the running of everyday households and so forth. And I know you.
I
you
drop
have
my
kids.
daughter off at pre-care every day. Yep.
Same thing.
As far as that goes. All right. Dr. Britton and Eric, thank you so much for coming on the show. I appreciate that. We'll look more, and hopefully everything goes well. And again, we'll probably get you on our podcast, Charles, as far as
For sure.
I know. We're going to be doing another podcast with Russ Melman, our Chatham Health Director, this Thursday, as academia starts to open back up and we get back to hopefully some type of normal, and to go from there. But again, thanks so much for all of your diligent work and your administrative team and teachers and faculty, and hope everything goes smooth, and we'll get back on the road here. So
For sure. Thanks, Dave.
again, so for all of us here at Portland on the Move, that concludes our back to school edition with Dr. Charles Britton and Eric Barton. And again, our Portland on the Move show usually airs on the first Tuesday of every month live at the Comcast studio in Cromwell at 199 Shunpike Road. But because the studio is closed, we're at our remote location here at the Senior Center / Waverly Center. So, so until next month, thanks to all of us, and stay home, stay safe, wash your hands, and go to school. Thanks.
And I say, come on, come on, come on.